Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Teacup. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's interesting because I feel like this episode feels like it would be, yes, the opening act to a movie, but it feels weird as like a first episode just because it's introducing, I guess maybe that's why, if I remember, I'm getting to this a little late, but if I remember correctly, there were 2 episodes released, so they probably did it on purpose because of that, because it's like, you're not quite sure what this show was about with the first episode, maybe a second episode with it gives you a better idea, but it's like, right, we get introduced to this, well, first we have that opening where this lady is zip-tied, and she's trying to, like cut it over a rock, and she's saying this speech over and over again. It seems like she's normal for 1 minute, and then she kind of goes into a little bit of a trance, and then she starts saying murder maker, and then like she has this phrase she keeps saying over and over again later on in the episode. It's interesting because it seems like it's almost like something got downloaded into her, because she kind of passes it on to Arlo near the end of the episode, but then like when she's in the woods alone, it almost seems like she's not repeating the same phrases, she's actually just talking normally. So I don't know. It's also interesting too because like she was talking in Spanish later on, because the message has a mix of English and Spanish, so I don't know if that's something significant or not, because later on she's purely speaking in Spanish. Then I'm like, could it be like the fact that she was saying murder maker in English and not, that I don't know what to make of that, if that's anything to be made up sense of. Like, I don't know if that's it being part potential, like some of it seemed like it was in Spanish, and a lot of it was in English. I don't know if that's significant in any shape or form, but either way, like I said, the main crux of it is introducing us to this family. You have Yvonne Strahovski playing Maggie and her family. Her mother-in-law's there, her son, her daughter, and her complicated relationship with her husband, James, played by Scott Speedman. So you knew something was off. She was a little weird around her mother-in-law, but then it's like apparently there was kind of a bit of a disagreement they had, and she kind of said some stuff she shouldn't have said. But she's like, yeah, my beef isn't with you, it's with James. And you're like, what's that about? Because he's kind of awkward around her, being like, yeah, like we're not really talking about our issues. And she's like, I don't want to deal with that right now. So I'm like, and it's not till later on until Valeria shows up where I'm like, okay, I see what time it is. The moment they gave each other that look, and even Valeria was like, yeah, Maggie kind of gave me that stink eye. And what made it even clearer for me was when they were like, when James passed Valeria the glass of alcohol, and they kind of touched hands, and it was kind of a moment, and even his mom picked up on it. So I was like, okay, so you two definitely had an affair. I was like, does mom not know? Does she know you had the affair? Because it, like, her and Maggie were having that conversation early on where it's like, it's not you, it's James. So I think the mom, James' mom knows what he did, probably just doesn't know who with. And James kind of implies, well, not implied, just straight up says he doesn't think Maggie knows. He knows Maggie knows that he cheated, but doesn't know with who. But Valeria was kind of getting the feeling like Maggie already knew, but I'm assuming Ruben doesn't know, because I guess because the conversation they're like, oh, have you told Ruben yet? I thought that was about like, oh, like, are you going to leave Ruben and I'm going to leave Maggie? It seems more like a, hey, have you told your partner that we had an affair? But maybe it is the question of, what are we going to do going forward? How much do the kids know? The daughter, James and Maggie's daughter, might know, might not, because she talks about it later on where like her parents have been fighting a lot lately. That's about it, but who knows? Also, I should really quickly note, I completely forgot the actress who plays Valeria. I'm going to butcher, I hope I'm getting her name right. It's D-I-A-N-Y. When I see that, I want to say Diani, not unless the I is silent and it's just Danny, but Miss Rodriguez, her last name's Rodriguez, yeah, it's Weecha from The Blacklist. I was like, oh, I completely forgot she was in this, because I've seen a trailer for this, but I only watched part of it because I didn't want to get spoiled too much. I watched like half the trailer, but so I don't fully know what to really expect from this series. But yeah, I was so happy when I saw it. I was like, all right, yeah, I totally forgot you're in this series. There's little things we also have, like the fact is that Maggie lets what go. I don't know if that was a wasp or a hornet that she let go. She caught in the cup a teacup, funny enough, and she's like, oh, it's a tempest, or it might not even, was it tempest in a teacup? And she let it out when she went outside. And I was like, well, we know, or it seems like she's a veterinarian, it seems like, but I don't know if that's just like her just like being like, oh, letting all creatures go. It's interesting too, because like this is based, apparently based on a book called, was it Stinger? That I'm like, so are the wasp or hornets or whatever that is going to have some significance in all of this? I mean, maybe letting go of that, letting that, once again, wasp or hornet, whatever it was, or the yellowjack, whatever it was, letting that bug go seems like that might be a thematic element. Once again, I don't know if that's speaking more about who Maggie is as a person, that she let that go rather than just killing it and kind of set an example for Arlo, or is it just going to also play a thematic theme throughout the series? We'll have to wait to see, but then there's that thing that happens twice in the episode where like this, some kind of interference pops up while like James' mom is listening to like it's either like a Bluetooth stereo or just a radio engine. I think it's probably like more like I think it's a Bluetooth stereo speaker of sorts, a Bluetooth speaker. But then also the kid who came here with his family about the horse situation, he was like, yeah, that same thing happened in a car, and Dad was like, yeah, it must be like a weather storm thing. So that's, once again, just dropping into little weird things here and there. Arlo followed that goat that got out, but he got lost in the woods, and it becomes a thing of, hey, everyone, let's split up and look for him. Eventually, it's James and Valeria searching the woods along with Valeria's son and James and Maggie's daughter, Meryl. Which, the way Meryl was kind of phrasing that, she was kind of like, wait, what's up with you, saying my family's awesome and trying to tell jokes, and he immediately changed the subject to Arlo, where I'm like, is that kind of like supposed to be like a subtle thing of he likes you? Because there was this it was a really nice conversation he had with James' mother, where it's like she's like, anytime there's anything bad or stressful going on, I always say the thing that's bothering me and add a but to it. Arlo's missing, but we're going to find him. I'm kind of freaked out and stressed, but I have some liquid courage. So it's just, I thought that's kind of a neat philosophy to have. He does drink the rest of it because I guess with everything going on, he wants to calm his nerves more. I guess that's also why he was able to he was very talkative when it came to Meryl because of that. Probably the liquid, because that was before he knew he was going to be leaving with her to go look for Arlo. So maybe he knew like, well, she's in the house, so if in case I run into her or talk to her, I also want to have some liquid courage in me to give myself the courage to talk to her in some shape or form. I don't know if that's necessarily what that's setting up. Also, I can't remember, because the son's name is Nicholas, right? I believe. His dad, I can't remember it's Ruben, and he's played by, is it Chase Spencer? Which I was like, didn't I see him in something like earlier this year? And I was like, I think it was Echo, I believe. I think that's the most recent thing I've seen him in. I swear I came across something else with him in it, but Echo might be the one thing I'm thinking about from this year. Either way, that family showed up because their horse was a little freaked out and is uneasy, and it turns out Maggie and her family's like animals are in the same condition for whatever reason. Something spooked them out. But like Nicholas and Ruben and them's horse is like, Scout is covered in blood because it kind of like hurt itself. It's got cuts on its face and stuff. The way Nicholas was talking about, it's like, right, it was swinging its head. Like, he thought, like, oh, it was trying to scratch itself because it was itching, like, on, like, a post or whatever, or, like, wood. But it kept, like, moving its head back and forth, I guess, like, banging its head on something. And it has a piece of wood sticking out of it. Luckily, it didn't hit an artery, which was, like, the biggest concern. But it turns out it's okay. But, yeah, like, the sounds on the speaker, the whole situation with the animals getting weird, and then the whole thing with Arlo in the woods, where that woman like, I don't, at first it's like she charged towards him, but I guess like when you look at him, he's not wounded. It's just her hands are covered with blood, and she touched him like on his face and on his arms. But then she stands above him and she's shrieking, and they looked at each other's eyes, and whatever it was inside of her transferred to him, to the point later on he's repeating the speech she was saying, and then he kind of has like, I don't know if he goes into shock or whatever it is, because he kind of passes out. So, and then she proceeds to get mauled by what appears to be a dog, because you have another couple who show up looking for their dog, which was lost, which got found by Nicholas and Meryl, who found not only the dog, but also the goat that Arlo was looking for. They show up and they're talking about like, yo, there's a dog. It's not a coyote. It's a dog. It's kind of acting a little wild. It might have rabies. Home dude came locked and loaded, but James is like, no, we don't need that. I've got a bat. I don't know if that's James is not too fond of guns, especially because you're going to be firing pretty heavy artillery. In a sense, maybe a lot more, it's a lot heavier than James would be comfortable with, or maybe James just doesn't rock with guns in general. But it's like that, and like, plus my kids are going to be around, especially if you're in the woods where my son is still out there too, and we don't know what's out there, so I don't want to lead to a potential accident. Because that's actually what I thought might have actually been their original issue. I thought like maybe it was a situation of they lost a child, miscarriage type of situation, sadly, might have caused a rift in a relationship. I mean, who knows? That could have played a role in why there might be an affair situation. You never know. There's a multitude of reasons why people cheat. Not saying it's okay, but I mean, that's just the thing of different people have different reasons, whether it's physical, whether it's just because of lacking something physically in the relationship, like, or emotionally, whatever the case may be. Also, this show unlocked I think an irrational fear in me. The whole story that James told Valeria about Meryl in the stove because you read her like Hansel and Gretel. I don't need that in my head. Once again, luckily I don't have like my nieces and nephew are teenagers. My youngest niece is already like preteen about to be, so like I don't have to worry about that type of story. Like I don't have any children yet, if I ever do, but I'm like, that's kind of an irrational fear I don't need in my head. I already kind of have that a little bit with the dryer. I know it's stupid, but I'm almost like afraid. Luckily, I'm never in a situation. I know you're supposed to preheat the oven when you're cooking stuff. I never preheat it. I always prepare what I want and put it in the oven first before I turn it on, so I wouldn't have to worry about that. But still, in general, that's just a scary thing. Oh, you don't know where your daughter is, and especially the story about like how Maggie's always like the one that's prepared to do what needs to be necessary to get something done, but she looked everywhere and couldn't find Meryl, and he's like, I've never seen her like that. She was paralyzed, she was frozen, and she was kind of breaking down, and it's like, I had no idea. But yeah, that's where Meryl was the entire time. Basically, the oven door was too heavy for her to open up because it closed behind her. It was too much for her to open, too heavy, and she ended up falling asleep in the oven. And we're like, Jesus Christ, if someone hadn't come on. Because I'm so curious how many people do just turn on the oven not looking what's in there. Once again, I always check because I always put stuff in. I never preheat the oven. I always put my stuff in first and then turn on the oven, because you never know. And I also do check to see because sometimes my family would have a tendency to leave stuff in the oven. I was like, well, I don't want to turn this on or preheat this, not realizing there's something already in, whatever the case may be. So it's just like I said, that just unlocks some irrational fear in me. I know it's stupid, and I don't even have any children, but if I ever did have children, I don't want this sparking up in my head of like, oh, let me be scared that my child might decide just for shits and giggles to climb into an oven. And there's even that line from James where he's like, yeah, children are stupid, which I'm like, it's harsh, but it's like, yeah, kids are stupid, You can't you can't fully be prepared for the stupidity of kids, because it's kind of a thing of, yeah, they don't know not to touch, the stove when it's on unless you get, until they get burned. It's like, sadly, that's how you learn. I'm not saying that's, but it's like, sometimes like life has to teach you to be prepared for those things, because you can never be prepared with like the stupidity of kids kind of thing. But it's kind of the thing of, Valeria's takeaway from it was like, right, that just shows like how he's like, I don't know why I'm even telling you this right now, because she's like, it's because it showcases how worried you are. She's like, plus, because you love your kids and you love Maggie. So I guess maybe that kind of like shoots down any like, oh, we might be trying to leave our respective partners for each other type of thing. I don't know. Once again, we don't know what the motivation for the affair was. Then we had the ending where the guy in the gas mask shows up and he's like spraying a line in the middle of the road that's like leading into their property, and I'm like, what is that? I'm like, it doesn't seem like are you going to go all the way? How far are you traveling with that? What's the significance of that? Once again, like, having not seen the trailer, I don't even know what to expect. I don't know where all this is potentially leading to. I don't know what to expect from this because I've also never read the book is based on. It's like, is it going to be a 1-for-1 of the book of like, oh, you're adapting it pretty closely even though you're going to make changes, or is it like we're very loosely basing this on said book, you know? Like I said, it's just the first episode, so there's just some characterization stuff and some spooky, weird stuff you can glean from this, but overall, it's unclear where this is going. Like I said, it was 2 episodes released at once for the premiere, so it's like, probably need the second episode to really give you a better idea of what to expect. But I'm really interested to see where all this goes, what happens next. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.